So when my son Jonathan learned how to walk, he kept bumping his head on the table over and over and over and over and over and over and over, and I'm like, damn, my son is retarded. Only for someone to explain to me that he's not retarded, it's just that little children don't have depth perception. And I'm sitting in poetry venues watching people leave just as empty as they came. But we proclaim that this is supposed to be like church. And if what we do is God's work, then the job of the poet is to teach you where your preacher can't reach you. But unfortunately, too many poets sound retarded, or at least they ain't got no depth perception. They refuse to scratch the surface and dig deep and give something that means something. I mean, they'd rather regurgitate the same facts they get off the 6 o'clock news, or what you live in your own life blues, or they do this for the odds and the oohs, or maybe for a high score and they evaluate what they're up for, because we the people need more. We need solutions, or at least a way to get by. When most poets just write well enough to get by, they have to move away from the microphone so the rest of us can get by, because man, they sound retarded. So upon this mic, I shall build my church, and the gates of bad poetry and the gates of a bad poet shall not prevail against, because this mic is sacred. Has no room for animosity, greed, or hatred, because there's a woman in here tonight that at home, she got bills, kids, and maybe a man, therefore 24/7 her life is in demand, and although she's under some type of psychological, financial, or physical abuse, although she knows her problems ain't one of a kind, she just got some things that's on her mind, and for the 3 to 5 minutes that she's at this mic, maybe the most room that she may ever get, and I'll bet that there's a man in here tonight that ain't in control. And all of his life he's had to do what he's told, and at work he has to work by their rules, and in society to live by society's rules, and although he knows his poetry ain't the best, he just got some things he need to get up off his chest. And for the 3 to 5 minutes that he's at this mic, maybe the most room that he may ever have. And regardless if he or she makes you cry or laugh, 9 times out of 10 they're just wishing that someone will listen, and when no one will, open mic is here to lend an ear for the darkest secrets and their biggest fear. So poets, beware. Beware what you try to pass off as poetry, because there's somebody in here tonight that's listening to your every word. They're listening and hanging on to your every word, hoping that you sing a song or tell a story that they can relate to, that knows their joy and understands their pain, that sees the sunshine and feels the rain, because a good poem is like a cross to bear. Poets, you gotta be willing to bare your soul and sacrifice a piece of yourself. You gotta chant your poems like sacred songs of the land. You gotta be willing to show the crowd the scars and the palms of your hand. You gotta allow your words to ignite the mic like fire. And this mic can be a burning bush, and this ground is hollow, but you ain't gotta remove your shoes. Just mic check your ego, because poetry for real can heal and ain't no placebo. Because with our pens and pads we're like gods. And in the beginning was the word, and with your words so let your light shine. Poets, beware. How y'all doing, Racine? Y'all good? I would like to give 2 apologies. Apology number 1, I am so sorry for being late. Nick told me what time to be. Say that again? It's okay, you're cool. Well, thank you. Thank you for saying it's okay, and thank you for saying me and my babysitter weren't hanging out on the same time. Her clock and my clock just wasn't the same clock, you know, so. And I want to apologize. I have another show that I have to be at, so if I don't stay for the entire show, please don't be like, that Dan Vaughn dude came, spit left. So I apologize, but I'm gonna stick around as long as I can. So, we're on a Jonathan kick. Let's do not all Jonathan poems. We'll do some Jonathan poems. Yay! Yeah, Jonathan, that's my man. Sometimes life seems so far away, and the distance between the inner city dead end I grew up on and the suburban cul-de-sac that I now live can only be measured in terminology. Because regardless of the diverse difference in the economic ecosystems, 3 things will always remain the same regardless of where any of us live. 1, you can always search for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, because the sun will always shine even when it rains. 2, you can always set your goals with the sky as the limit, because heaven will always be the same distance from earth. And 3, children still like to play. So on the day when PlayStation 2 was turned off and outdoors was turned on, I'm ear hustling while my son Jonathan and our next door neighbor Rodney are playing with their Spider-Man action figures. And while perched eagle-like on top of the sliding board of the swing set with his arm outstretched toward the sun, Rodney proclaimed, "My Spider-Man goes to the moon." Only for my son Jonathan to rationalize and say, Rodney, you can't do that, you ain't high enough. Plus that's the sun you're pointing to. Only for Rodney to come back with, "Yes, I can do anything in my imagination." I guess that's the same imagination that he channeled all of his focus into. Because Rodney was probably the only one that imagined that the white couple would look past the white kids and look past his dark skin and look past his dark past and see the love and compassion that he had on the inside of him, just waiting to be loved out of him by anyone that imagined enough to do so. And here he is, a little black boy living in the suburbs with two white parents standing on a sliding board pointing toward the sun but going to the moon. Imagine that. And imagine what you've imagined. Think of what you've thought of. And then think of what you've mentally woven into the fabric of reality. And I don't mean to Kanye West you, but you can achieve anything if imagination made it. And just like Rodney, if you point toward the sun, you can at least make it to the moon. And it doesn't matter if it's a Spider-Man action figure or yesteryear's G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip, a cul-de-sac off of County Line Road, or a dead end around the corner from 10th Avenue and 33rd Street. Three things will always remain the same. The sun will always shine when it rains. Heaven will always be the same distance from earth. And we children will always have the right to imagine. Imagine that. So as you all can see, Jonathan gave me a whole lot of stuff to write about. So we're going to stay on the Jonathan track. Is that okay with you all? Yeah. Like I said, that's my man. He can kind of give a little... He had an incident at his school a few years ago. And he's 6 now, but at the time he was like 3. And it was like this whole, how do you handle that? How do you handle this situation? Because I know how my parents handled it, and I can only imagine how their parents handled it, and then how it was handled by their parents who were slaves. So every generation, there has to be a change in how we handle the way we see each other in society. So this is our son had an incident at his school, and I wrote, me being a writer, of course, I wrote a letter to the school. And my wife was like, you cannot send that to the school. So I put it in a poem and figured I'd tell 1,000,000 people. Dear Milwaukee Montessori School, allow me to start off by saying we in no way hold you responsible for little Ryan telling our son Jonathan that he looks like coffee. Because you as an institution of education and me as a spoken word artist must appreciate the imagery little Ryan imagined when he used the analogy like coffee. But as parents, please understand our angst. As this incident has awakened a 30-year nightmare within my wife that she's reliving every day of the little Ryan of her generation, suggesting that a mother should bathe her better to wash away the black dirt from her skin. Well, I grew up in a time and a place, 1980s, Meridian, Mississippi, where you didn't see a 1950s lynch of an Emmett Till, but the stench of his bloated body still lingered in the air like strange fruit that had rotted on a vine of racism and remained to remind us what hate is, teaching new generations of old terrorisms. And although my soul still bears the scars from the whip lashes and the slashes of hatred tattooed on the backs of little black boys born in the 1970s, I can't allow my son to hate white people. Because the sins of the forefather cannot become the sins of the son of man. Plus, when I look at Jonathan, he does resemble cocoa beans blended ever so gently to a fine cup of coffee. But it's not his fault, but more so mine. Because I like my women like I like my coffee. Straight, with 2 shots of Hennessy. Because you can never be too black or too strong. And it's now to teach him what it means to be black. And in order to be black, he has to be strong. Because eventually, little Ryan's coffee is going to turn into brownie, then blackie, then spook, then nigger. Eventually, little Ryan's going to call him nigger. And I got to teach him that it's okay to be coffee, but he ain't no nigger, because we ain't niggers. So don't be alarmed when he comes to school and he refuses to sit to the back of the bus and tells you the story of Rosa Parks. Or when he turns his Black History Project in on March 1st because February just didn't have enough days in it for him. Or he wins the race, and trust me, he will win the race, and he holds his fist up in the air as if it was 1968 Mexico City, the Olympics. Or when he tells you that Harold Revels and Blanche Bruce are his heroes, or that the blood of Nat Turner runs through his veins, or that these aren't fingerprints, but a genetically encoded map of the Underground Railroad so that he can always find his way to freedom. Because it is now he understands what it means to be coffee, what it means to be black, and what it means to be strong. Sincerely yours, 2 parents, 2 black, and 2 strong.